Welcome to my speed drawing of a Merle Aussie Shepherd in graphite. The photo was from Pixabay by Norwind. So I start off using 2H, light pressure, so I can rub any areas out. So I'm just going over, refining some of the areas, measuring up to make sure my proportions are okay, doing a little circle for the nose, a line across for where the eye level is, and then the face can be divided up into sections because of the beautiful colours on this dog. It made it pretty easy. So there the eyes are in position, and I just rub out the horizontal line, and then I'm just going round, strengthening and shaping some of the areas before I start shading it. Right, I changed now to a 2B pencil using the side of the lead, so I can shade a larger area, and I'm roughly following the fur direction, checking back on the reference photo each time because you can easily lose yourself with the direction of the fur when you're doing a portrait of an animal. So I use the point of the lead when I'm wanting to get in more defined hair areas, and back to the side when I'm covering a larger area. Also there I change back to the 2H, the harder pencil, when I'm drawing in any or shading in any areas that are lighter on the reference photograph. So I jump around to different areas as I'm working. There's no logical progression. Something just catches my eye and I think, right, I'll work on that area. So there I'm working on that eye, doing some of the shading of the fur, the lovely merle bit, and I started on the other eye, but then thought, no, I'll go to the nose. Again, swapping from the side of the lead to the point of the lead, depending on how much detail I want to put in. So I'm using the point to go around the eyes, and then back to the side when I'm shading large areas. So it doesn't matter, you can use either pencil that way, and I'm picking out the light and the dark and medium areas that I can see in the photograph, just roughly filling it all in. The initial layers are done now, so I've got my blending stump, which is a really useful tool in graphite drawing, and I blend in the general direction of the fur, and it will blend away the pencil lines and give you smoother coverage. As you're doing this, your stump will get loaded up with graphite, and you can use the blending stump then as a pencil. So there I put a few shadows in the white part of the dog's muzzle using the loaded stump, and I've also done the mouth. So I'm coming back in with a 2B pencil at first just to darken up around the eye, and I decided it wasn't dark enough. So instead of like pressing on really hard, I'm doing quite light layers to build up the darkness. You can see my 4B pencil's in a pencil holder, which is a really good tool to prolong the life of your pencils. And then I moved on to the other eyes, first starting off with a 2B pencil. So you're just testing to see whether it's the right darkness for you. And if it's not, come in with your 4B pencil. And each time I'm looking at the reference photo, trying to just check where the darker fur is, where the shadows are, and which direction the fur is lying. And I'm using different strokes, so long strokes for the long fur, which is quite obvious really, and shorter strokes for the shorter fur. And a good tip is to, as you draw the stroke of the fur, is to lift your pencil up. Now I've brought in a bit of glassine paper there because I was aware I was smudging my drawing with my sweaty hand, and this just helps you, gives you somewhere to rest your hand so your drawing doesn't get smudged. And then I'm changing the position of my hand so I can get the darker hairs that I'm drawing in going in the right direction. So you have to be a bit of an acrobat. Is that acrobat? Contortionist, not an acrobat, because I'd be jumping around, wouldn't I, if I was an acrobat? Never mind. Again, I'm swapping from blending stump to pencil. Right, now I'm going to use one of my favourite tools, which is the Tombow eraser. Now, I use this to draw in highlights. And as you rub out the graphite, I'm using a soft brush just to get rid of the eraser detritus, so I don't smudge it. If you do it try and do it with your hand, you can smudge it. So I'm checking for where all the light bits are in the drawing, in the reference photo. And this little tool can help. So the small size of the eraser means you can remove pretty fine lines from your drawing, and also you can make points like highlights for the lights in the dog's eye. And I do enjoy this part of a graphite drawing because it just brings the image to life. I've seen some people cutting the eraser to a chisel point to give it a fine edge, but I just look at the general shape of the eraser, and you can turn it round and you get a good idea of which edge of the eraser to use. So I'm coming back in now with more penciling and a bit heavier pressure, swapping between all the tools as I feel fit, putting 4B in the darkest areas I can see, and using a harder pencil for the lighter areas. So it's just generally building up layers now, and just keep checking the tonal qualities in the reference photo, making sure that you've got that contrast within your drawing. Again, I vary the different strokes. Okay, so I'll be using my harder pencil to do the lighter fur, and the soft pencil to do all the dark areas. So there I'm using my 2H just to, on its side, to give some shadow to the white fur and any other lighter areas. Pressing on a bit harder when it's a darker tone, and then coming in with the Tombow to pull out some highlights. I know it's quite difficult at this resolution of video to see everything, but right at the end of the video there's going to be a still of the finished drawing, so you should be able to see. So on the right hand side, the dog's face is much lighter, so I'm putting a lot more highlights in there, and I've used a lighter touch with the pencil. And again, it's just generally going around and refining stuff, blending it where I think it needs to be softened, and then using the pencil to come in and darken up the shadows, using the tip for finer details and the side when I've got a large area to cover. And this has been quite a quick sketch, so I'm working pretty loose, making bolder marks than I would normally on my more detailed work, but I do try to get looser in my work, because you can just get bogged down with details. So as I probably get a bit bogged down with details as I do this, going back and forth with the different tools as always, just swapping round, making adjustments here and there. And it's a really nice colour dog to draw in graphite, because you do have 3 very distinct tones. So that does help you with your light, dark and mediums, or your light, medium and darks, I should say. And all those lovely mottled colours, so you can use your darker pencils. And there, the light colours on the collie. I'm calling it collie, and it's an Aussie Shepherd. Oh well, they all look like collies to me. Just blending that in, so we get a nice smooth effect. And then I've got my eraser just adjusting some of the fur, and then coming back in with the pencil to make it look spiky. And it's a good idea as well while you're working, because you do tend to concentrate and focus in very tightly on your work, to step back and have a look at the work as a whole. So then you can check your values, make sure everything's as dark as it should be or as light as it should be. And we're almost on to the penultimate task, which is putting in the whiskers. And the whiskers I'll do with the Tombow eraser. You've got to be confident and just woo, woo, woo. There we go, woo, woo. And if it's too fat there, you can go along the edge with your graphite pencil, just adjusting. And the last is the signature, once you're happy with it.